Happy week 10, everybody. Welcome, Four-Eyed fans, to another episode of the Fantasy and Frames Wednesday show, the Start Sit show. I'm your host today at Fantasy Triage, Aaron Pags. Of course, with me, as always, the founder, the big shot, Mr. Jorge B. Edwards, Mr. Pay His Bets. Jorge?
I paid my bet last week. I literally took 2 pies to my face, self-inflicted. So I'm paying up my bet this week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. That's not really going to give you an idea of me paying a bet. This will, however. So looking forward to doing that.
And taking pleasure in Jorge swigging away at the bottle tonight will be my baseball co-host. And of course, you can find him everywhere at Fantasy and Frames and everywhere fantasy Twitter. Man, this guy's like, I don't know what he does outside of
He's
Twitter,
everywhere.
but he's freaking everywhere. At Nate Markham. What's up, Nate?
What's up, guys? Jorge, quit taking bad bets. Maybe get better at it and you won't get pies in your face.
Maybe that was my plan. I told you guys from the beginning, I love banana cream pie. Why would I turn that down?
Fantasy and Frames crew favorite, Michael Bauer from the Dynasty Rewind. What's up, Michael? How you doing, man?
Good evening, gentlemen, and Lauren, of course. Good to see you again. Favorite, using that term a little bit loosely, but I appreciate it and happy to be back as always.
Love having you on. And of course, our honored guest tonight, you can find her at stepmomlauren.com, Fantasy Footballers, Roto World, Fantasy Pros, The Liquor Store, at Stepmom Lauren Carpenter. What's up, Lauren? How you doing today?
Hey, how you doing? I swear to God, I'm not a lush. Like, I do drink other things besides Tito's, namely water. I'm very big on hydration. So I do imbibe in Tito's when it's appropriate. But you can generally, I went to the liquor store today, actually. So we have a tropical storm coming. And I'm like, oh my God, we only have a handle and a half. Like, what if we lose power? We have to go to the store and get beer, Natty Light specifically. Nice. And we're going to get we're going to get 2 more handles of Tito's.
Natty Light, for real?
She's from St. Louis, right? So that does make sense. I mean,
so I personally, when I drink beer, which I don't often drink beer. No, this is not the beginning of a Dos Equis commercial. When I drink beer, it's Bud Light only. In fact, at my wedding, only Anheuser-Busch products were allowed at my wedding, which we provided it anyway. But that was just the thing. It was an outdoor, very casual. People could bring their own booze if they wanted, but no Miller products were allowed. I would throw it away. It's nasty, gross stuff.
Michael, if we don't rein Lauren and Nate in, we'll spend 30 minutes talking about high schools in the St. Louis area.
Let's go. Mine was very bougie, so I don't really want to talk about mine.
Anheuser-Busch approved this pod right here.
Perfect. I can stay.
Lauren's prepared for the tropical storm, and we're going to get you prepared for week 10. See what I did there. Let's dive right in. Let's start at quarterback.
Let's get some relevant news really quickly before we do that. Sorry, Aaron. One thing, just wanted to give a shout out to all the veterans today with being Veterans Day. Thank you very much to everybody who's chosen to serve and protect this great country of ours. We appreciate everything you do for us day in and day out. You know, it's hard not to take it for granted, but you know what, we'll never forget what you do. So thank you very much. And with that, let's get into some relevant fantasy news.
Thanks, Dad.
Exactly. Thanks to my dad as well. Any fantasy relevant news we got to talk about? Is COVID a thing still? Are we going to have like a full slate of football games this week, ladies and gentlemen?
Never heard of it.
Right, exactly.
What's a COVID?
Yeah, I haven't heard of any
Corona. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of any game cancellations or anything per se.
Ben Roethlisberger did not test positive. In other words, he tested negative today. So,
yeah, but he was in close contact. Very similar situation to what happened with Matthew Stafford. So what they're doing right now is to avoid being like the next Raiders and get fined like $700 million. A lot of these teams are being very proactive when it comes to what they're doing. So he came into close contact with someone who did test positive. They put him on COVID reserve. After 5 negative tests, he is good to go. Important to note there, he's not allowed to practice with the team. So that is something to bear in mind as well, I believe. I think so.
So he sat next to Vance McDonald, and that's who initially they said that.
Why is he even on the team?
Well, that is a good point as well. It wasn't going to get down that rabbit hole necessarily, but was he positive also? Was he in close contact? Yeah, I guess we can. He's not listening. Yeah, get the hell off the team, Vance McDonald.
I don't know. Yeah, no, Nate, to answer your question, I don't know if it's like 3 separation of Kevin Bacon or something.
Right.
thing now. But Lauren's right. Like the Steelers are going to go out of their way to be extra cautious here because of how the NFL laid down the hammer on the Raiders money wise. No one likes to lose money, especially,
Yeah, it was over $1 million. They've been fined. I think it's over $1 million at this point, which is pretty significant. I mean, I don't have that laying around.
I know Baker Mayfield was taken off the list today.
Okay.
The question is now whether or not he's going to have enough practice time to start on Sunday, which brings me to a very interesting point that if Baker can't go, Lauren, when we had you on back in June, July, it seems like forever. First of all, it's been far too long. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Thank you very much for coming back. One of the players you were actually talking about way back then was Case Keenum and his potential to elevate some of the passing game. It seems like. So I wonder how that's going to come into play this week with this offense going against Houston. That could be a potential that could elevate some players like Jarvis Landry as well as some other players right there. Curious to get your thoughts on what if we get a Case Keenum game this week?
Oh my God, I love Case Keenum. Look what he did for Terry McLaurin. Come on, man. Jarvis Landry all day long. So I don't fear Case Keenum. In fact, I have him in a couple dynasty teams. I think I drafted, did I pick him up in Scott Fish? I can't remember. But yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. Case Keenum is a St. Louis boy. So one of my favorites that I really think he's a stellar backup QB. He's not going to need a lot of time to get used to starting, to get used to that playing time. He's been there, he's done that, he's a veteran. So I'm excited if he starts. That'd be super cool. Nice. Go Case.
And then David Johnson is battling injuries. Did he get a concussion last week?
Yeah. So Duke Johnson will be starting instead of David Johnson. He's still in the early phases of concussion protocol.
Okay, and Justin Jackson looks like head coach Anthony Lynn is taking it easy with him, which means we could get another Kalen Ballage week, which is interesting because he got reverted back to the practice squad on Monday. So if you go on your various apps, he's listed as a free agent. So it's like, let me add now if you need to add him, which I hope you don't, for the love of God.
This is just literally a detriment to Josh Kelly. They're like, we don't like you so much that we're going to make Kalen Ballage a thing.
FF Realist, what's up, Mike? Mentioning Rashard Higgins this week if Case Keenum is starting.
After that great week he had, go Rashard Higgins. There's only one Higgins you need to roster, and it's T, not Rashad.
There you go. That's absolutely correct. All right, let's get this show on the road. Sorry, Aaron, for interrupting.
No, it's okay. We needed that news. We touched on quarterbacks there briefly, Ben Roethlisberger and Baker Mayfield. Question, we'll get up to Saturday maybe to find out when and if they're starting. A couple other quarterbacks on bye this week that everyone plays every week: Matt Ryan, Patrick Mahomes. So the Four-Eyed fans are out there.
Garrett Gilbert, duh.
I intentionally left off the Cowboys.
He is my Orlando Apollo darling. How dare you?
Well, as Michael would say, the Cowboys are on bye every week.
I literally just put that in my article today. I literally did for Fantasy Pros. I did 5 burning questions. Yeah. And I was like, the Jets and the Cowboys are literally on bye since week 1. So we don't have to worry about them. I literally said that. Great.
Okay, so Lauren, I did the Patrick Mahomes thing this year. I drafted Patrick Mahomes in a ton of leagues. And of course I didn't have a backup anywhere in sight. So who am I going to go get and start?
Well, there's 2 of them. These are matchup dependent, guys. So these are not like rest of season going to win you leagues, especially if you have Pat Mahomes. So I actually only came up with 2 here because Sir Jorge over here was like, pick 3 starts and sits on offense. I was like, okay, he didn't say per position. So we're going to work with this. But I actually did prepare several, just not 3. However, I have 2. The one I like the best is going to be anyone who goes up against the Seattle Seahawks. So go ahead and fire up Jared Goff. He's available. He should be available if he's not already taken after waivers. I really like his matchup. They're averaging they is the Seahawks 26.73 fantasy points to the position. They've also allowed 8 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. I mean, this is I really don't need to go that much into the stats on this. It's kind of obvious. You start the quarterback who's going up against the Seahawks. Another one is going to be Derek Carr. I really like him too. They're playing against the Broncos. My third one there can also be starting Drew Lock. He's going to be boom or bust, but his booms are going to be very boomy. I just made that up as I went there. But they are 24th. They here are going to be the Broncos, 24th against quarterbacks. They've allowed over 2,000 yards to the position so far. Again, 14 TDs have been allowed. So he's going to sling it, and he's not afraid of doing that anymore, as well as leaping over people. And it's who are you, Derek Carr? And what have you done with ridiculousness, but I don't know. It's weird. 7 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So I like those two. Drew Lock, on the other hand, but he's going to be a little bit more volatile.
Broncos down their top 2 quarterbacks last week. Haven't seen any injury news on them. Nate, who else you starting this week at quarterback? I know you're all in on Goff.
I was, and I'm looking
because
at
our St. Louis brains think alike.
Yeah, exactly. And there happened to be a 55 implied over/under total, which obviously means there's going to be high scoring. And if I look back at the 55. Rams, 55 it is, and that's what everybody should aspire to do, is when you have a podcast, a show, is that anytime that you hear a word like, or a number like 55, immediately you think of that right there.
Yeah, you don't think of the song anymore. It's now the fantasy footballers.
I didn't know it's a real song. It's a song?
It's a song. Yeah. I Can't Drive 55. Yeah. It's a song. Yeah. And like now it's not even a song anymore. It just belongs to them.
It's just a clip.
You didn't know that was a song?
Well, no, but now that clip will stay in infamy with me for the rest of my life.
All right. So, I am as sketched out on that as I am on my potential start this week. Outside of Jared Goff, it's a little early in his career. I'd like the matchup for Tua this week. The Chargers, 4th most points allowed so far to the opposing team's quarterback. The one thing with that is that Justin Herbert on the other side, I believe, will be in a position to keep that point total moving. I like Tua's rushing upside in that. We haven't seen exactly what he's going to do, and obviously their defense is still trying to hone into the whole left-handed quarterback rolling out to his left is still throwing defenses off. I heard
it's throwing me off. I can't watch that because I'm like, oh, I can't. Like,
it's like, wait, he's going. What are you throwing across?
Like watching people play golf, like left-handed. I'm like, that's wrong. Nope.
Sorry, Phil Mickelson, if you're watching too.
Except for Phil, he's amazing.
Yes. So I don't know. I'm going for Goff everywhere. I think Tua would be one of those long shot starts that could pay dividends this week.
Michael, you're our Dynasty expert. Of course, you are going to have Tua everywhere you can in Dynasty. How about him this week? What do you think?
Well, I actually don't have Tua anywhere in Dynasty. To be honest with you, I am Herbert over Tua guy. But I think he's going to be fine. I think he's getting comfortable. If I have him somewhere, I mean, obviously, if I have a guy like Mahomes, well, I'm not starting him this week, but he would be started over Tua. But you could definitely go ahead and fire him up. If you want to acquire Tua, by the way, last week, before the last game, would have been the time to do it. His price is just going to keep going up and up and up right now. So, but I'm definitely not afraid to fire him up at all, especially with the way the defense is putting them in good positions. He's not having to do too much. He looks really comfortable. He looks like a seasoned vet right now. So go ahead, fire Tua up against the Chargers. And
Jorge, Tua, Goff, Carr, these are all starts this week, but who are we starting them over? Give me a sit.
So this is going to shock a lot of you because I may have mentioned his name quite a bit in the offseason here at Fantasy and Frames.
Oh, no. You're going to really do it to him right now.
I'm really going to.
Yes.
Yeah. It pains me to say this, but I'm sitting Ryan Tannehill. I think you can find better options than him this week. Indianapolis is allowing 15.3 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. When it comes to how the Colts are dealing with skill players, they rank 8th in coverage. So that basically takes away any receiving options you have there. And they rank 6th against the run. So, Derrick Henry, I think he's going to be a low-end running back 1, but this is going to be a very difficult game for Ryan Tannehill to get something going. I know he's mobile. I know he can get you those rushing yards, but this defense for the Colts, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about IDP, they're really stacked. The addition of Darius Leonard coming back has been really helping over the middle as well as sideline to sideline. I mean, he's getting everywhere. I think the athleticism at this linebacking core has gone to the point where they can keep up with a mobile quarterback. And like I said, the secondary, the strong safety position, it's just all of these are aligning for the Colts to basically hand it to the Titans on Thursday.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, so I was going to choose Ryan Tannehill as a sit in this position, but if you look at the Colts in the last 4 weeks, they're actually not as good as what their season-long record is showing. So if you guys don't have any other option besides Ryan Tannehill, I don't necessarily think he's going to be as bad as maybe it may seem on paper season-long. So the last 4 weeks, the Colts are ranked 18th. They've allowed 68 completions, hold on, 68 completions on 104 targets, 819 yards, 2 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, I believe. I'm just reading this real quick off of that. They're not as stout as what they used to be, but they are still a contender. So if you have to play Ryan Tannehill and there's no other options for you, it may not be as scary as you may think. I just wanted to throw that out there just in case, not to like totally argue with you, Jorge.
No,
sorry.
but that's good. I mean,
you're making him feel better. Yeah, you're making him feel better.
Oh, Jorge, thanks for
one
having me
too that
on.
I don't want to sit. Like my sit breaks my heart. Like,
no, it's good that you say this though, because it's one of those things where I think it's a misnomer that, just because we say start and sit, it's really exceed or temper expectations, because a lot of these players may be your best option. So that's very good to bring up, that this could be a tempering expectation situation for Ryan Tannehill, but not to the point where you're going to regret starting him. That's a very good point.
Let's not let Lauren tease her heartbreak. Go ahead, Lauren. What's your heartbreak this week?
Matt Stafford. I can't. Mm-hmm. Oh, it hurts my soul because I love Matt Stafford so much. I have a signed helmet over here by Matt Stafford. My husband's a diehard Lions fan. I, by proxy, have to like the Lions, and I love Matt Stafford. I wrote about him all off season. I think he is going to be finished as a top 10 quarterback. But this week, like last week, was not going to be his best outing. And unfortunately, without Kenny Golladay, that's a big weapon. I think that's going to be, he's going to obviously not going to have it. I don't like that. It hurts me. It like hurts me deep inside to sit Matt Stafford. If you have a better matchup at quarterback, or if there's one available on the wire that you can stream, I think he may get you decent, but not enough if you really need some points in order to win your week, which we're getting there. We're getting close to the playoffs. So it hurts my soul.
Absolutely. Getting later in the season, teams are now, going to start running the ball more. We're going to see, obviously, Derrick Henry get fed the ball. We're going to see some of these like bell cow workhorse backs really carry offenses as the weather changes and the season gets later in the season and these games start to matter a little more. Michael,
just how weird is it that I'm like, sit Matt Stafford against Washington?
Yeah.
But like, that's where we are in 2020. Like, the football team is so good. Like, but they are. Their defense is super stout. I can't keep going. I'm sorry, Aaron.
That's okay. I know your heart is broken.
It hurts.
She needs to vent. Let her vent.
Verklempt.
Michael, we need some running backs. Running backs are usually the foundation of your fantasy lineups. Give me one that we're going to start in week 10. That can be a foundational piece.
Sure. I've been talking about this guy on your pregame show for a couple weeks. I've been talking about him on the Dynasty Rewind. Gus Edwards, fire him up. Mark Ingram, banged up again. So when I do starts and sits, I try not to give you, obviously you're going to start your studs. We know that.
So start Derrick Henry.
Yes, start Derrick Henry.
Got it.
Check.
But you're going to have those flex spots that you're really uncertain about. Okay. If Frank Gore can look decent, Michael P. Ryan, who's my boy, can look decent against the New England defense, there's no reason to think that Gus Edwards can't. Although I did see, did you guys see the report? Lamar Jackson said that the opposing defenses are calling out their plays at the line of scrimmage.
No.
Yeah, I saw a Bleacher Report sent that out today, which I think is bad if you're a Ravens fan. Funny to me because I'm not a Ravens fan, so I don't really care. But Gus Edwards consistently has been getting between 30 or high 20s to low 40% of the snaps. He's been getting at least a touchdown in the last couple games. Fire up Gus Edwards against the Patriots. I think they're going to try to control it on the ground so Lamar Jackson can't get the plays called at the line. So love me some Gus. Not long-term, not dynasty-wise, this week, this year. Love Gus.
Somewhere on the Pacific Coast Highway, David Ibrahim has got this huge smile on your face that we're talking Gus Edwards. No doubt, for sure. Nate, give me another running back. We're going to start here.
Another person who Dave actually really likes going forward, and in this particular matchup, is Leonard Fournette. I know there's a lot of the Ronald Jones hype as of going into really week 8 when he fumbled away the opportunity. So he started off, fumbles, gets pulled. Game script last week against the Saints gets pulled in favor of Leonard Fournette, which benefits Leonard Fournette because
they only carried the ball 5 times.
It was exactly. That was actually kind of a just strange and just general. I know they were chasing, but what teams completely abandoned the pass, especially when the run, when the pass was so bad, but everything's stacking up. The one narrative that I have to be cautious with Fournette is I believe that Tom Brady, after the whole Bruce Arians calling him out saying Mike Evans was open, he just wasn't targeted, is kind of like a backhanded slap towards Brady. And I think this is an opportunity for Brady to succeed and want to throw and pepper Mike Evans with targets. But I also think this is a Carolina defense that allows obviously as many points as we've seen the entire season, the second most to the targets and to the running back position as well, which was 75 targets they've allowed. Leonard Fournette does what? Obviously catches the ball. I think the reception floor will be elevated just enough that Fournette could finish as that low-end RB1 this week.
I'm not going to let Nate off the hook, as he knows, every single Wednesday I target one of his targets and put him on the spot. So
go for it.
Leonard Fournette or Duke Johnson? You got to start one.
Oh, man. That's, I got to go with – I don't. Shit. I'm going to stick with Fournette because he was my start, and I looked at Duke Johnson, and I bypassed that in favor of Fournette, so I'm going to stand by my guns. And if Jorge wants to take a bet on that, I'm glad to acknowledge that as well because you look thirsty, my friend.
I have a feeling that Jorge's looking to lose a bet again, so go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah, Fournette's matchup is pretty juicy.
It's good.
I just look at the Buccaneers, and I see all these other receiving options, and I'm like, am I really going to bank my hopes on Leonard Fournette getting a lot of passes out of the backfield versus a Duke Johnson who's probably going to be a lot more integrated into the passing game with David Johnson potentially out. We may have to announce this on our pregame show on Sunday at 11 a.m. We'll figure that out. Let me do some research on that.
You got to do.
Are you allowed to do that?
Kind of deal is this?
Jorge has lost every bet he's made on air on all of these shows.
I'm sorry, Jorge. You probably should do some research.
I hear doing research before making.
I'll help you.
Is a good idea. Thank you very much.
Lauren, I know you have some research to spew here. Give us a sit. Take the other side of the ball here.
Oh, good Lord. Hold on. I got to change my pages here because my start is different from y'all's, just so you know. Josh Kelly. Easy one. Stay away. Just stay away. I can't with Josh Kelly. I can't with my life. But I do have a good start we haven't talked about. J.D. McKissick. So he's been annoying for Antonio Gibson managers right here. I know for sure. So he's losing touches. I think he lost like 6 total to just like 12 or 6 or something to J.D. McKissick. And he's getting involved in the passing game. I don't know what's going on, but they love him and they want to keep using him. And Antonio Gibson's kind of banged up here. So even standalone value, I think J.D. McKissick can give you a really good spot start if you need somebody to fill in. And if Antonio Gibson can't go, I keep wanting to say Antonio Brown. If Antonio Gibson can't go, J.D. McKissick's a great start then too.
Jorge, they're just shouting out. Our guests are just shouting out our other Frames crew here because that's Todd Barnes' guy.
What's up, Todd Barnes? Wait, which one, J.D. McKissick or Antonio Gibson?
J.D.
McKissick. Yeah. So my concern with McKissick is, you look at what he's been very game script dependent. They were down by a lot against the Giants last week. Anytime that he's been emphasized in the passing game, it's because they've been in a negative game script. You mentioned Matt Stafford as being down sit this week or a temporary expectations quarterback. Do you think that is going to kind of play a role in seeing a reduced role for J.D. McKissick, or is this Gibson news with his shoulder being slightly banged up like something that we should really keep an eye on?
I think it's something you really should keep an eye on with Antonio Gibson. So I would scoop up J.D. McKissick regardless, and I might start him regardless of Antonio Gibson. Obviously, if I have Gibson, which I do in some leagues, I wouldn't start J.D. McKissick over him unless he's obviously hurt and not playing. But if I do not have Gibson, he's a start that I really don't mind. Game script, I'm not really quite sure. Have we really seen enough for us to really peg down when he's being used and when he's not? I think they're trying to be tricky with him, and I think they're trying to be creative with using him, because if you look at Washington, their 2 highest targeted players are Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. So there's only 2 players there. So they need to have some creativity when it comes to moving the chains. And I think that's kind of where they're using J.D. McKissick as opposed to Antonio Gibson, who's kind of maybe more of a line from scrimmage kind of guy, integrated a little bit in passing. That's just kind of how I see it. I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure, but I don't know how they're using him. So why not experiment and go with it and just see? Because so far he's been involved. So if Gibson's out, then I'm starting McKissick. And if he's not, then I need someone to fill in. Bloop, there you go.
And 35.
Lauren mentioned Terry McLaurin. He's a start every week in fantasy. Let's shift over to the wide receiver position, if you will, Jorge, and we'll let you lead us off here. Give me a wide receiver outside of Cooper Kupp. Of course, we're starting against the Rams. So cross Cooper Kupp off your list. We're starting our Rams against the Seahawks. Give me a wide receiver.
Look, he's been out for a few weeks ever since he blew up on Sunday Night Football against the Saints. I'm on board the Allen Lazard train this week. Great slot receiver. He's pairing up against Trey Herndon, who's allowing, when quarterbacks are targeting him, a passer rating of 140.2. That's out of 158.3. What does that tell me? That tells me he lets his receivers catch the ball pretty much at will, which is great for PPR and half PPR upside, or half PPR and PPR leagues rather. And, I'm not an MVS fan. I think he's like a boomer bust type of deep play shot. They're going to be keying on Devontae Adams, although, anybody can key on Devontae Adams defensively, and he's still going to win his matchup. But I could see this being kind of a shootout of a game. The Jacksonville Jaguars are allowing the third most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. I think Aaron Rodgers does a lot of damage, and this is going to be a welcome back show for Allen Lazard this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that call too. Michael, wide receiver that we're going to start this week. Oh, there it is, Jeremy, hitting him up with the DJ Chark. Michael, why don't you take that one for us from Jeremy? Do we now trust DJ Chark against Green Bay?
Yeah, I do. You got to figure. No, well, Nate, you know what?
It's
my turn. So I don't really.
Jair Alexander,
it's yours. Let me read real quick for receivers, Mike. You start off, and I will then piggyback off of that.
You just said you were going to read something real quick, but I'm going to trust DJ Chark because every time I leave him on my bench, I get screwed. Right. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to put him in there. I got him in a lot of spots, and you know what? Last week I didn't start him, and there's at least 3 leagues that if I would have just went with my initial, I'm screwed. I'm going to start him. I would have won. And I didn't. Sometimes it's about starting your studs. And here's Nate Markham to tell me why I'm wrong.
I am not telling you why you're wrong. I'm telling you that there's a chance that you may be right, because Jair Alexander is coming off a concussion right now. And there's a chance, albeit a very slim one, that he does not play. And then DJ Chark is just like he was last week with no Roby in the lineup. And he was opportunistic and took advantage. Unfortunately, Jair Alexander is the number 1 rated cornerback in terms of coverage, according to Pro Football Focus. He also has taken the opposite, I would say, of 4, I believe, wide receivers we've heard of: Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley, Mike Evans, and Will Fuller. The aforementioned 4 have had stat lines of 4 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Adam Thielen, that's a plus. That's pretty good. Calvin Ridley, 0 for 0 and 0.
What week?
Mike Evans, 0, 0, and 0. Will Fuller, 1 catch, 6 yards, 1 touchdown. That was on 12, 13, 15 total targets. He's allowed a total of 72 yards.
You're also talking about wide receivers, though, that don't really hog a lot of targets, which I can understand where DJ Chark can fall into that. But I think Chark has a little bit higher of a ceiling than when it comes to someone like
Adam Thielen. 30% target share.
Yeah. But what do we know about Luton? Gluten?
That's a great question.
Gluten-free? Like, what do we really know about him? And what kind of target share is DJ Chark going to get? I just think he's far too talented. If you have a better option than DJ Chark to play him. Now, his question was, can we trust him? No, I don't think you can trust him. Do you start him? Probably. Take some Pepto, eat some antacids, have a beer or 2, and see if you can get through the game, because you're going to be so much more pissed off with yourself benching him and he scores a touchdown on 3 targets for 55 yards.
Nice, look at you.
Right? Than you would be if you started him and he got you maybe 5 points. Okay, that's just, where do you feel less crappy about your fantasy life? On your bench or starting? That's literally the way you need to go with DJ Chark, because you never know when he's going to blow up.
Mike, let's talk about Luton a little bit. You were about to say something about him?
Sure. He went to Oregon State, 6'6", cannon of an arm. Did play in the AAF a little bit. There's some rumblings he could be the starter for the rest of the season. There's a very good possibility. This team wants to win. These guys are coaching for their job. I liked the Luton a little bit. I didn't think he was. I was like, hey, he might get drafted in the 6th round and be like the next Gardner Minshew.
Right.
And, here he is kind of taking Gardner Minshew's job for the short term. This is a case of, especially in dynasty leagues, you not working the waiver wire and saying something like, I don't need this guy. No, you need this guy, because here's why. Somebody has a starter that goes down. Now you're going to sell him to that guy, or you have somebody to plug in case one of your guys goes down. So that's why it's always important to play the waiver wire in Dynasty as well as redraft. And I do have a start that I'm really excited about. You guys are all going to say I'm crazy. If I could just say, start David Moore, because from the Seattle Seahawks and look,
I was going to say that same one.
Week 7 through 9, 10 catches, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 12 targets, also 3 carries for 32 yards. So you could do worse.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
Yes. So he excites me. I got 2 other ones here, but I don't want to steal them all from everybody. So thank you for letting me talk about Jake Luton. That was exciting.
Bring in the fire. Nice.
Lauren, give us a start that Michael probably has written down on his paper right in front of him.
Probably Christian Kirk. I mean, it's time. If finally that chemistry is coming to fruition between Kyler Murray. I swear to God, I know what I'm talking about, although it doesn't sound like it. It's about time that chemistry from like back in high school finally came about. It is good. And I think this really is a fruition of DeAndre Hopkins just getting that double coverage and just taking away every piece of defense. And Christian Kirk's like, hi. And Andy Isabella's like, oh, crap, dropped it. My bad. So they're like, yeah, we'll go to Kirk. We're good.
I just want to interject. You are one of the most knowledgeable people in the industry. Don't talk down about yourself.
She's already on the show, Jorge.
Right. I understand. I'm not
and just about the Luton. So I was so mad I didn't get a chance to really pay attention to that game because one of my gigs for Roto World is I do the Sunday headlines. So I'm literally updating during every 1 o'clock game and every 4 o'clock game. I update the website with like big plays, turnovers, scoring. Like I'm addicted. I have to watch the red zone, like because that's what I update and do everything. And then I was paying attention specifically to the Chargers game because I talked with Josh Norris about that after those games were over. But I was trying to like keep my eyes peeled because I was like, Luton, you are not gluten free. I love you. But then I couldn't pay attention. So I want to go back and watch that on Game Pass because I'm thrilled to see that. I'm a Florida girl, sort of. I'm a Missouri girl, but now I live in Florida. But there's something about a team like Jacksonville that can come out and just be like, we don't care. I mean, that's why we love Gardner Minshew, was his like stretching in jock straps and bandanas and, you know, mullets, and his dad's built like a brick S house. So it was like, this is cool. Welcome to Florida. Like, I love it. So I really want to watch that game.
Luton appears to be more substance than just like Bud Light commercial and a mustache, maybe, Michael.
I know he's super athletic. I really like that. Well, of course, he's in the NFL, but talented.
I mean, he's not. He's a guy. He's more of your Peyton Manning statuesque guy that's going to stand back there, distribute the ball pretty quick. Better arm than Minshew. I'll say that. I don't know about accuracy so much, but definitely stronger armed than Minshew is. He's probably going to be a guy that always has a job in the NFL, like a Minshew, you know what I mean? So he's a guy that's important to have on your long-term dynasty rosters because especially if you're in super flex leagues, you're going to need a starter eventually. Things are going to go wrong. You know, I have a league where I was going to win it because I had Dak Prescott, Miles Sanders, and Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Can I just go back to the DJ Chark thing really quick?
Yes.
Okay, so DJ Chark is going to give you heartburn on your roster no matter what, because it's going to be, what do I do with him? What do I do with him? If he has a big game before your trade deadline, trade him. Trade him for a piece that you need that is going to be more consistent. That is my number one recommendation. Whenever you have a player that is super boom or bust, let them have a boom game, then get rid of them. So that would be a good idea if you have Chark on your roster and it is not past your trade deadline yet.
That's a very good point. And let's not forget, like, trade deadlines for the various platforms, I believe, come around this time of the month, like around week 10, week 11. So this could be your final week to make a good trade. So good advice there, Lauren.
Not only does DJ Chark give everyone heartburn, like a tight end not named Travis Kelce, and you pretty much have heartburn every single week. Jorge makes us do starts and sits, but the truth is, like, you can't sit a tight end that has done anything at any point all year because the rest of the tight ends are just garbage. So we're just going to run around the room here and give starts. We'll start with Jorge because he makes us do this. Jorge, give us a start at tight end.
A poor linebacking core in coverage. No Landon Collins over the top. Give me TJ Hawkinson against Washington this week. Washington against the position, giving up close to 13 fantasy points per game. Look, like you just said, you're not sitting anybody. No Kenny Golladay this week. I think the target's got to go somewhere, and I think they're going to be funneled to the easiest matchup for the Lions passing game, which is TJ Hawkinson.
Nate, frame by frame, you're up.
Eric Ebron, double digits in 3 straight games. Bengals allowed 6 touchdowns to the tight end position, second most points to the aforementioned position as well. Seems like low-hanging fruit, but I'm happy with it.
Lauren, reach a little higher in the tree.
I was going to take Eric Ebron, but I know he's caught, some passes and done well the last 3 games, but week 10, he'll probably lose all of his fingers again and be like, exactly. Trying to catch the football. And I don't want to deal with that. It's just, like I said, too much heartburn. But speaking of heartburn, why not? Let's go with Jimmy Graham. Start him up, fire him up. He's a huge red zone target for Nick Foles. The matchup is pretty good, which I do like as well. Understand it's going to be a boom or bust. It's Nick Foles and the Bears we're talking about here. But if there's going to be a body that Nick Foles look for in the end zone, it is Jimmy Graham. So fire up Jimmy Graham.
Michael, last call here at tight end.
Logan Thomas.
I love him too.
Yes. Logan Thomas is a guy that I had Dallas Goedert on a lot of rosters and got hurt. So I picked up Logan Thomas.
It looks like I'm just trying to slap him now.
I know. I saw. I was like, give her other hand.
Other way.
There you go.
Hey.
Yeah. And Mike Stan is right here. Sorry. So I like Logan Thomas a lot for both real football. And I do have one more. Harrison Bryant versus the Houston Texans. He's a Cleveland Browns tight end. They do like to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. I do think Njoku is going to move on in the offseason. So if you could get him on your dynasty roster now, he's a guy that my co-host Nate Christian liked a lot in the preseason. I wasn't super high on him. I was wrong about that, and I'm admitting it. So Harrison Bryant as well.
Austin Hooper, I think, might be back this week. Talking redraft, though. Just redraft. I know you're talking dynasty. Totally get it. But Austin Hooper is also a possibility there, too.
Yeah.
My co-host named Nate, he focuses in on IDP stuff for us over at fantasyandframes.com. And he has been absolutely crushing it. So, Nate, keep it going.
You ever want to root for a player just because he entertains you and you really, really want to watch that person succeed? That's Brandon Graham, Philadelphia Eagles defensive lineman. Maybe the most interesting, fun player, unless you're playing against him. If you're Amari Cooper, if you have a chance, you guys go and watch Brandon Graham's trash talking to Amari Cooper. He said he noticed Amari Cooper had a hunch to him and he looked like his body language was saying, I don't want to play. And he called him out on it. He basically said, I know you don't want to be here anymore. Go ahead and put your cleats up. Your team won't miss you. I'm going to continue to do what I do, which is basically gets to the quarterback. And if you look at the Giants, they allow the 3rd most points to defensive ends. You have this matchup that historically, they've had one matchup this week or this year. But in that game, he had 4 tackles, 3 solos, and a sack, and a forced fumble. So I can see a replication of that exact same game, especially with the Eagles winning. Correct, Michael?
I would think so. Also, I know I'm not a huge IDP guy, but if you want to deep Eagles lineman, Josh Sweat is a guy that they work into the rotation a lot. He was like a 5th round pick a couple years ago, and he's playing better than Derek Barnett right now. So if you want to acquire him in an IDP league, he's going to come cheaper than Brandon Graham. I'm actually trying to look up his stats right now. But
while you're doing that, Jeremy of fantasyandframes.com, of course, Jeremy gives us our recap every week. He is going up against Jorge apparently in one of their leagues, and Nate is going to decide who he uses to beat Jorge.
So Jorge, if you take a big swig here, I will maybe choose the opposite of what should be spoken.
Fair enough.
Uh-oh.
And we judge based off of how big of a swig it is. Holy shit, I meant out of the Pepsi mixer.
You went right for the bottle. Guess he's...
I really don't have
let me answer this.
He's into it.
He's going to answer against himself. Good Lord.
I'm into it. Wow. Jeremy, as much as it pains me to say this, and Nate, you can call me out if I'm wrong here.
No, I'm wrong.
But DeForest Buckner and this Indianapolis Colts defense have a great matchup on Thursday. Derrick Henry's not what you call a bounce it to the outside type of running back. He's kind of like a run at you, run you over running back.
That's Josh Norman.
And I hear that's good for a defensive tackle, a la DeForest Buckner, who sits right in the middle of the defensive line. He's just going to get tackle volume for the defensive tackle. And defensive tackles in IDP normally aren't somebody that you're going at and trying to start in your lineups week in and week out. You're going for your defensive ends, your edge rushers, your linebackers, your strong safeties. DeForest Buckner, I would start over to it.
I would have taken Tuitt, just so you know, in case, Jeremy, you want to start him.
That's helpful.
Actually, yeah, that is helpful for me. That is helpful. Give Jeremy more confusion. Let's not help him out this week.
They're like it's like a bunch of brothers trying to decide where to go out to lunch or something. You know,
we're a family here at Fantasy and Frames. We love each other, but at the same time, we are very competitive.
Am I like the weird cousin that comes and visits on Thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
Like the weird drunk cousin?
We need you to break things up.
I'm so here. I'm here for you.
Well, Lauren, it was awesome having you. Michael, of course, great to see you too. Lauren, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, and if they don't already follow you, I don't know why they don't, but
oh my God, what I'm up to? How much time do we have? Okay, so I work for, I'm a writer, fantasy football writer, obviously, for the Fantasy Footballers. Yeah, you might as well take a drink because it might be a while. For the Fantasy Footballers, for Fantasy Pros, and for Roto World. And I write the waiver article for the Fantasy Footballers, 5 burning questions every week for Fantasy Pros. I do the Monday and Friday daily doses for Roto World, which is a recap of the day before. I also write the Sunday headlines for Roto World, which I update live on Sunday. I also do a Fireside Friday live if I have time and I have showered. That's usually the prerequisite for me going live and showing my face. So yeah. And all my work you can find, I still have to update it. I'm behind stepmomlauren.com. Come find me, talk to me, ask me questions. I love you guys and I love helping you with your starts and sits.
Michael, where are they going to find you?
Really should have had me go before that because it's not as great. If we're talking about jobs,
sorry,
you said where you work. I fix cars. Not that that's that interesting, but
I also build websites. So there's other things I do besides fantasy football.
Perfect. That's great. I mean, my job's super boring. I put on breaks, but I'm the host of the Dynasty Rewind. Fantastic podcast. Great co-host. Wouldn't be where I am right now without those guys, and that's Nate Christian, Shevin Nooney, and Phil Porkman Simmons. We also have an intern, Sean Fournier. Always say your last name wrong, and I'm never even going to try. We do 2 shows a week right now. Waiver Wire show on Tuesdays. We do a Friday night show. Right now we're doing it tonight in about 18 minutes because I'm away for my anniversary this weekend. So come check it out. We're having Ray Garvin on. We're going to be talking about some rookies.
I have to say it's a super fun show, and I've been a guest on the show, and it was a great time.
Yes, it was
awesome. We love when you come on, Michael. Love having you as like our stepbrother here at Fantasy and Frames. So thanks for coming on. I don't have any
brothers, so that's fantastic. I love it, and I always love being on.
Jorge, Michael's got an intern. Why don't we tell people what you're up to?
Wow, what am I up to? So you can find me doing the Start and Sits article here at Fantasy and Frames, as well as hosting the 4-Eyed pregame show every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We normally go an hour and a half, covering all the games, every fantasy relevant player on offense and defense. So tune in for that on Sunday. And I'm at Twitter. You can find me at Jorge B. Edwards, answering your questions whenever. I don't sleep. Lauren, I don't know if you've heard you can see these guys. They know I don't sleep. I'm always awake answering fantasy questions, as well as follow us at Fantasy and Frames over on Twitter as well. Where all of us are here to help you. We want to help you win fantasy championships. We want to make sure you have fun. Let's remember that's what this is all about. But winning is, obviously the precedent there. So yeah, that's what you can find me doing. And thank you very much for joining us, everybody.
Nate, some last words for us.
You can find me, like I said, here at Nate Markham, right there. I do host a podcast with Jorge here for the Fantasy Data podcast network called the Fantasy Playbook Pod. That's what days that airs like on what? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think there might be a Sunday preview in the morning we do, then this show. So I don't really do much. So just kind of laying low.
Every single day, every single night, Nate's doing fantasy.
And then we have a baseball show coming up here shortly that we should we'll start getting.
So I guess we can break some news right now.
Real quick.
If you see the logo, here we go.
Sorry.
Fantasy and Frames baseball is coming back soon. Aaron and Nate and Todd. You can find it Todd1006 on Twitter. They're going to be running this up this year. So as soon as fantasy football season's over, we're transitioning to baseball. So we're growing, folks. We may incorporate a third sport next year. Who knows? We'll see. My sister-in-law made that sticker for me, so that's not moving anytime soon. So we may be sticking to just football and baseball for the time being.
Jorge mentioned it at the start of the show. Thank you to all of our veterans, everyone who served overseas. If you've had family members who have done it, and that sacrifice is the ultimate one. And thank you all. Obviously, I'm an ER nurse and I work at a VA hospital, so I get to work really close to all the veterans here in the South Carolina area. So it's a really special day for me, and I love my job, and I hope that if you see a veteran, not just on Veterans Day, thank them, not just today. So
absolutely,
absolutely.
All right, guys, awesome time, cool show. Let's get out of here. Thanks for coming, Lauren. Thanks for coming, Michael, and everyone else. Have a great night.
Thank you.